Hey, what's going on? So, it's been a while since I've made a video, and it's been about a year since, or well, probably over a year at this point, I haven't checked, since I made a video about getting Windows plugins to work on a Linux environment using Ubuntu as the base. And in that video, I gave out an entire step-by-step process on how to do that, and that same process is still very relevant. However, I've done something that I wanted to share and give to the world, and hopefully you're going to get a lot of use out of. So one of those things is that I built a tool. It's going to look something like this. Now, this is still a early access kind of thing, and it's very early development. This design's probably going to change, but it is already available for you, and I'm going to show you how you can get it later. But what you can do in here is just set your sample rate, set your buffer size, and you can perform Yobridge commands straight from this GUI. Now, if you're new to working in Linux and you're here to learn how to put Windows plugins on your computer and you don't have anything set up yet, and a lot of this doesn't make sense to you right now, trust me, I'm going to explain later. I'm going to get you taken care of so that you can get Windows plugins working on your new Linux desktop. However, for those of you who are returning and seeing this and going, okay, yeah, I want this GUI. I'm tired of doing stuff in the terminal. I just want to set my buffer size and record guitar or record vocals and then set it back so I can do my mixing and my mastering. Well, I'm going to jump straight to that chase and show you how you can get this first. And then we're going to go through the whole process of getting those plugins set up with the new scripts that I have together to speed that process along. So the old way, I had you copying and pasting and moving things. This way, you're going to run a script, and that script's going to take care of everything for you. So with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and close this out, and I'm going to open up a web browser. And I'm going to head to a website that is github.com/heroin-bob. I'm going to put this link down in the description, but what you're going to want to look for is the AudioTools for Linux repository. And once you open that up, you'll be right where my project is being hosted. Now, one thing I want to say is throughout this process, I'm going to be working on a fresh install of Ubuntu. This is going to work on any Ubuntu-based distribution, whether it's Mint, whether it's Pop! OS or Elementary, or whatever you're using, as long as it's Ubuntu-based, it's going to work. And if you're wondering if yours is Ubuntu-based, there's a link right here. If you click on that, it'll take you over to DistroWatch, and it has a list of a probably not complete, but still very long list of Ubuntu-based distributions. You can check there, or you can just do a Google for your distribution and see if it's Ubuntu-based. Anyway, so this is a C# written GUI that I've put together. If you want to just get this and you already have Yobridge working, you've already got Pipewire working, you're already using Windows-based plugins in Linux, then the rest of this video is not going to be for you. I'm just going to show you how you can get this real quick, and then we're going to go through the new automated setup process for anybody who's new to this whole environment. So for those of you who are just looking for this tool, the download is going to be right here under releases, but you're going to need to download support for C# and the .NET library in order for this to work. Now, I did try to develop this in Python because I know a lot of people have Python already for other tools. However, I couldn't get it to do what I wanted it to do. I actually have a bit of a write-up about that down here in the FAQ if you want to read that. But what you're going to want to do to get .NET installed is scroll down to this requirements section. You're going to look for how to set up, and you're going to look for setup for AudioTools only. Click that drop down, and you're going to see a script right there. This is going to download .NET version 8.0, and you do have to have 8.0 for this to work. And you're going to open up a terminal, paste it in, and then you're going to run it. I'm going to put in my password. All right, so now .NET is installed. I've got .NET 8.0, and I can verify this by running .NET version. It's got 8.0 there. Great. So now if I run over here to the Releases tab, I'm going to grab the most recent release of AudioTools. This was a very minor update that I had to make to AudioTools that I caught last minute. But if you open this up and you right click the file and go to properties and go to executable as program, you can now open up AudioTools and you can do things like set your sample rate, set your buffer size, and perform your sync and status commands. Now, this isn't going to work because I don't have any of these things installed on this operating system because, like I said, this is a fresh install of Ubuntu. All I have right now is .NET, and apparently Pipewire ships with it, which is nice, I guess. But yeah, that's it. So if you were just here for AudioTools, there you go. I hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, drop me a comment. If you have any issues with it, you can feel free to drop those in a comment as well. I hope you have a great rest of your day and enjoy the free software. For everybody else who's still here and you are like, okay, I need to get everything installed. What am I doing? How do I do this? Well, like I said, the previous video had you doing a whole bunch of stuff. All these things had to be installed manually, one by copying and pasting commands that I gave you. I've got two new options for you. One is a manual setup, which is much of the same, but it's a little bit cleaner, it's a little bit nicer, and it's a little bit easier to follow along than the previous instructions were. So I think that's worthy of mentioning. If you want to go the manual route and you just want to go step by step, there you go. However, if you want to do the automated setup, it's right here. This information is just going to tell you what I'm about to tell you, and that is all you need is the setup.rex.sh file. So let's go ahead and scroll up to get this automated full setup started. I'm going to assume that you don't have Wine installed. If you have Wine installed, you need to check and see what version it is. You're going to do this by typing wine -- version. And that'll tell you. Since I don't have Wine installed, nothing came back. If your Wine version is 9.21 or higher, so anything over 9.20 is not going to work. Yawbridge is incompatible with anything over Wine version 9.20. So if this comes back and says anything that's over that version, you're going to have to look up how to downgrade. I can't really tell you how to downgrade because I'm not going to know how you installed that version of Wine, but you're going to have to do a little bit of research and get that taken care of. But for everybody else, if you don't have Wine installed or it's less than 9.0, then we're going to run through these steps as normal, and as long as you don't get over that version, everything will be just fine. So scroll up here to the top. We're going to click this green button that says code, and we're going to hit download zip. Open up that folder, and now what we're going to do is extract this folder. Inside of the folder that it makes, the AudioTools for Linux folder, you're going to see 4 individual files. You're not going to need these at all unless you're looking to build this program yourself, and chances are you're not going to want to do that. So go into setup, and now you're at the files that you need. First thing you're going to want to do is click the setup.rex.sh file, right click it, hit properties, and turn on executable as program. Next thing is you're going to have the requirements test folder, or excuse me, file. Right click it, hit properties, and turn on executable as program. And you can right click these and just hit run as a program, but what I would do is I would right click in the folder itself and hit open in terminal. And then you can just take your file and drag and drop it in. So with the requirements test file, go ahead and drop that in and then hit enter. Now it's either going to spit out a very little amount of text or it's going to spit out a wall of text like this. At any rate, all you got to do is scroll up, and if you have .NET installed, it'll say .NET installed in the version number. If not, it'll say .NET not installed. Here I do have it installed because, well, I just went through that, so no big deal. You'll get this too. You don't have to go back and copy those commands or anything like that. It's all part of the setup file, so don't worry about not having .NET installed. We're going to get to that. I also have wget installed. If you don't, again, don't worry about it. This is just letting you know what you do and don't have. Down here, looks like Ubuntu ships with Pipewire, so I've already got Pipewire installed. But it is showing me that Wine is not installed and Yawbridge is not installed. So I know generally what it's going to install, and I know what I already have. If you wanted to go through the manual process, you can. But even if you do have all these things installed already, you can still go through the automated process and it'll just skip over what it finds. So not a big deal. All right, next thing we're going to do is click the setup recs file and then drag it into the terminal and then press enter. Now it's going to start running the first thing, which is going to be the Microsoft fonts, which is going to require you to put in a password. And then it's going to ask you for one more thing. This is the end user license agreement for the Microsoft fonts. A lot of Windows applications use default Microsoft fonts and Linux distributions don't ship with those. So you have to agree to this. You're going to push right on your keyboard, press enter, push left on your keyboard, and then press enter again. And now the entire installer is going to work. It's going to install the Microsoft fonts. It's going to install anything that's missing. It's going to run through Wine and install 64 and 32-bit versions of Wine. And it's going to completely configure Yawbridge for you. So I'm going to let this run and I'm going to check back in once it's finished. All right, now everything is installed except for one thing. Now, if it gets to the end and you see this message that says the setup is now complete, and you get anything that doesn't just say Yawbridge and some numbers like Yawbridge version numbers like this, and it says command not found, that means that there was an issue with setting up Yawbridge. This is something that I haven't quite sorted out yet, and it's not really a huge deal because I've also included one more file to resolve this. Now, reading this message, it'll tell you that you should go ahead and reboot the system, which I want to do. So let's go ahead and push Y and push enter. All right, we're back at the desktop. So what you want to do at this point is open that folder back up. Go to my downloads here. Go to my setup, and now we need to run this setup for Yawbridge one more time. So let's right click it, go to properties, and turn on executable as program. Close that out, and now right click the folder and hit open in terminal. Click the setup Yawbridge file, drag it on over, and then hit enter. You're going to see it do a whole bunch of stuff. If you see it say cannot overwrite, don't worry about it. It's perfectly fine. All right, and the setup is now complete, and it shows what we were looking for. Yawbridge CTL 5.1.1 at the time of this recording. Awesome. And we can actually verify this. If you want to type in Yawbridge CTL space dash dash version, it'll spit the same thing back out. So perfect. Now we know that everything is set up and working like it should. Let's go ahead and check one more time. So I'm going to type the word clear and hit enter. I'm going to click the requirements, drag it back in, and hit enter. And let's run through the requirements again. Okay, we see that we have .NET installed. We have wget installed. Let's scroll down. We have Pipewire installed. Wine is installed. See the note right here, version must be less than 9.21, and it is. And we have Yawbridge installed. And now that's everything. So now we're ready to start using our new tool. Let's close out of the terminal. Let's close out of the setup. And let's open up Firefox again. Back on the AudioTools GitHub repo, we're going to look to the right-hand side for releases. And we're going to click the most recent release. And we're going to click AudioTools. We're going to open up that folder, right-click that file, and hit Properties. Then we're going to choose Executable as Program. Now, I installed this earlier, so I have two of these. I'm going to delete this second one just so it looks exactly like yours. With all that being said, let's go ahead and open up AudioTools and make sure that opens correctly. We're going to test this out by first setting the sample rate. I'm going to set it to 48K. All right, that worked out great. As long as it says found settings and it gives you some output information matching the value that you put in, perfect. We're going to do the same thing with buffer size. Let's set the buffer size to 64. Yep, and it worked. Perfect. So now let's run Yawbridge CTL sync. Perfect. And then status. Perfect. Okay. So let's explain a couple of things here. So your sample rate and your buffer sizes, if you've been involved in recording for a while, then you're pretty familiar with these terms. Your sample rate being 44.1 or 48K is the bit rate of your audio tracks that you're working on and recording with. It's very important as far as quality goes. Buffer size is going to adjust the amount of latency that is in your tracking. So if you're doing something like singing or playing guitar, you want a really low latency. But if you are doing something like mixing or mastering, that buffer size can be too low and cause some issues. So you're going to want to crank that up and make sure you have a higher buffer size so you don't have any issues, because at that point, latency really doesn't matter. As far as YawBridge goes, YawBridge is going to work with Wine to make sure you can run Windows plugins. So Wine is the layer that allows for Windows applications to run on Linux. YawBridge allows for those plugins to work. So you can think of Wine as enabling the functionality for Windows applications to run, and YawBridge enables the functionality for those plugins to talk to your audio editing system, whatever software you choose. Now, periodically you're going to have to come in and tell it to sync up whenever you install new Windows-based plugins, and you can check the status and see what all your plugins installed are, but we're going to get to that in just a moment. Now, as I said before at the beginning of this video, this is not the final product. This is just the working product, a very early version 1.0 kind of stuff. I intend on expanding this, and I want your input. So please, as you use this, tell me, is there something you'd like, something that's missing, something you want to get control of that you're sick of having to go to your terminal for, and you just want a button to click it? So drop it in a comment. You can even come in here to the repository, and if you have any coding experience, you can fork this and do things with it. I mentioned in here that if you would like to fork this tool and modify it, if it's good and you've got good documentation on it, I'd be happy to link it and provide that information for everyone else. So with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and close this out since I don't need it right now. And I'm going to install my first Windows-based plugin. If you want to follow along, what you want to do is open up a new tab and type in plugins for free. I'm going to hit this link right here, and we're probably going to get some ads. I'm not going to have any control over that because I don't have any extensions installed, because this is just bare bones Ubuntu. But click the keyword search here, close out of the ad, and we're going to do a search for cheapo. And the cheapo tone plugin is the one that we're looking for. Scroll down and download the Windows 32-bit VST. Open up that folder, and you're going to have the cheapotone.zip file. Extract that file, and you're going to be left with a single DLL. This is a 32-bit VST file that shows up as a DLL file, and you're going to want to put this somewhere that not only your DAW can see, but also YawBridge can see. So right-click Cheapotone, go to Cut, go to your Documents, and you're going to have a folder there that the setup process made called VSTs. Go inside of that folder. You'll have one more called DLL and VST3 files. Go inside there and then paste in that plugin. Now we need to download a DAW that we can look at this plugin for, because we can't verify if it's working or not. So let's close out of this. We're going to open up another tab and go to reaper.fm. Now I want to give an honorable shout out to the DAW Ardor. It's a very popular DAW for Linux-based systems. I just personally prefer Reaper. It's that one's good, the other's good. It's just a personal preference thing, honestly. I don't think you can go wrong with either one. But you're going to want to hit the green download button next to Linux. Open up this folder again, right-click the zip file and extract it. You've done this a few times now. Go into that Reaper folder, into that folder, and then find the install Reaper sh file. Right-click it and hit Run as a Program. Now you're going to get a big wall of text, and all you need to worry about is to install this. You do I, enter, 1, enter, yes, yes, yes. Put in your password, and it'll just install. All right, so now that that's finished, what we're going to do is close out of this file here, or excuse me, this folder here. open up the apps, and find Reaper. You're going to get a message here that says Reaper is not free. It is technically under a license, and you should consider purchasing it if you plan to do a lot of audio work. It's a great software, and it's extremely cheap. I think it's like 50, 60 bucks now, so good stuff. Anyway, it's still evaluating. Now, I'm going to get this message. You're probably not, but this is only happening because I'm in a virtual machine right now, so let me adjust my device real quick. Okay, so now Reaper is opening, and we can see that it is opening just fine. We don't have any error messages. Great. But we've got our plugin installed. So let's go ahead and check our Windows plugin and make sure that that works. I'm going to do this by right-clicking here, hitting Insert Virtual Instrument on New Track. And I don't see it. It's not in this list at all. If I go to All Plugins and do a search, it's not there. Now, you might remember earlier when I mentioned the purpose of YawBridge. I told you that once in a while you might have to tell it to sync to detect new plugins. Well, we just installed a new plugin. Let's go tell it to sync. So we're going to open up our files. We're going to find Downloads. We're going to find our AudioTools software. Now, I'm going to make one recommendation real quick before I continue. I'm going to cut this file. I'm going to go to my documents. I'm going to right click and hit new folder. And I'm going to type software. I'm going to go inside the software folder and paste in my AudioTools. And then I'm going to take my AudioTools file and I'm going to drag it over to starred. And now I have a little star here. So let's say you're in the middle of working on a song or you're working on a project or whatever, and you're like, I need to adjust the buffer size. My latency is too high. I'm getting this weird latency thing. You can, instead of having to drill down to the file itself, you can open up the folder and just click starred and it'll always be there. It just makes it really quickly accessible. Okay. So now I've got YawBridge Control open. What I can do is click YawBridge Control Sync. And now it's showing I've got one new plugin, which is great because we just installed one new plugin. Now I'm going to click YawBridge CTL Status. I'm going to expand this a little bit. And here I can see the path that I copied it to and the name of the plugin I installed. And it is the cheapo tone. So now if I go back to Reaper and I clear this filter, I'm going to click Effects, Scan for New Plugins, and then I go to New, and there it is, the cheapo tone instrument that we just installed. So I'm going to double click that, and now I have the full GUI of cheapo tone available to me, just as you would see in any Windows system. And I'm going to test this out real quick. So awesome. So it looks like it's working perfectly. I'm getting everything is responsive. Everything seems fine. So I'm going to call that a success. Great. So that's how you can install a simple plugin and get it working in your Linux environment 100% operational. But what about something that has an installer file like an MSI file, or maybe the exe itself is the installer file and you have to run that in order to get the plugin? Well, I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. So let me close out of this and I'm going to open up a folder and then I'm going to open up Firefox. I'm going to go to a new tab and I'm going to go to Neural Amp Modeler. Neural Amp Modeler is a amp modeling plugin that works great, and honestly it's made its way into my normal workflow. So if you wanted to look more into this, I highly recommend it. But we're going to scroll down and find the Windows installer button, then click on that folder, which I already opened up, and we're going to find the Neural Amp Modeler zip file and extract it. Inside of there, here we have the setup exe file. Now, if you try to run that, it's not going to do anything, and that's because we need to open it with Wine. So let's right click in the folder, hit open in terminal. We're going to type wine space and then drag and drop the installer file and press enter. Now we get the Windows setup. So what we're going to do is hit I accept and hit next, 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 install. I don't need the README, so I'm going to uncheck that and then hit finish. All right, so it has installed. Now, something you're going to notice is once in a while it's going to give you a message that says error menu builder invoke shell linker failed to extract icon from a PDF, and it's always a PDF. This is a new error in Wine that I've been experiencing lately. I don't know what is causing this error, and I haven't yet resolved it. If I do resolve it, check the comments. I will absolutely mention how to fix this. But until then, it's just going to give you this error, which isn't a big deal. You can just press Control C to cancel it, or you can close out of the terminal. Okay, so you can close out of that file browser and go back into Reaper. Now we're going to double click to make a new track and click Effects. And now we need to tell YawBridge to sync so we can get access to that new plugin. So let's go back to our starred folder. Open up AudioTools, and then we're going to click YawBridge CTL Sync. Now it says there are 2 plugins, one of them new, which is perfect. So let's click the status and let's just double check and make sure that it sees it. And there it is. Inside of this path right here, it sees that the installer put in the Neural Amp Modeler VST3 file. Awesome. So let's close out of this, close out of the folder. We're going to hit Effects and scan for new plugins. And now we see the Neural Amp Modeler plugin. So let's hit Add. And there we go. Now 90, 95, maybe even 99% of Windows plugins that I've tested have worked flawlessly. I've had no issues with them, but there is always some exception to that. And for me, it is a auto-tune plugin that I use regularly. For some reason, the graphics just don't work right, and it's super slow, it's buggy, it's unresponsive, it's really hard to work within. And it seems to be related to graphics more than anything, and maybe there's a fix for that. Again, one of those things that if I find a fix for that one rare instance that I can resolve, I'll leave a comment and let you know. But for those times where you might run into some weird graphical thing, and that doesn't seem to be the case here, it seems to be working just fine. What you can do is you can click this UI button, and that gets rid of the UI of the plugin. And you can adjust everything straight from here. So anytime that you're working in a plugin and it's just like, this is almost right, but not quite, try turning off the UI. Like I said, it's a very rare time that it happens, but it does sometimes happen. All right, so that is how you install Windows plugins. That is how you use the AudioTools application. That is how you get everything set up. I think by this point, you should be ready to start making music, start producing music, start mixing or mastering or whatever it is that you're doing. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop a comment below. I'd be happy to answer it. And if you have any ideas at all, leave that in your comments too. I like getting new ideas. I like getting feedback. And if you have any issues with this whole setup process, let's talk. I want to try to get this working as easily and smoothly for as many people as possible. So I think that's it for me. Y'all have a good one.